Breaking news, Daniel Ricciardo joining Mercedes. As you all know, I did a video on this earlier, but there has been new news that's come out about Daniel Ricciardo and the update of him joining Mercedes. So you loved the last video, so we're going to be revisiting it and talking about the latest updates. Before we get into it, make sure you like this video, and don't forget, if you want more Mercedes F1 content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hitting that red button down below. Guys, 98% of you are still not subscribed, so it'd mean the world if you could subscribe to the channel. But let's get straight into today's story. So Daniel Ricciardo could join Mercedes as a reserve driver and wait for Hamilton to retire. It's understandable that he gets so much attention, having shown a lot of talent throughout his career. We are talking about a guy that managed to outscore the defending four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel in his first season with Red Bull. However, he has been making questionable decisions ever since, from his decision to leave Red Bull to joining McLaren when his project with Renault team seemed to be on the rise. These career moves could have had an impact on the lovable Aussie, as his pace took a big hit with the British team, leading to him losing his seat. Ever since that happened, people have been making speculations as to what is to come next for him. From placing him within reach of a return to Alpine to striking a deal with Haas, he has been associated with every team. However, all doors appear to be closing as all the teams are approaching the drivers they want, with Ricciardo not seeing any concrete offers so far. With all the whirlwind around him, he began considering a position as a reserve driver for one of the top teams instead of gunning for a drive in a back-marker team. The latest name has been associated with is Mercedes. Rumors are going that well-paced source on the grid spoke about Daniel joining the Silver Arrows as a reserve driver. Mercedes are reportedly looking for a driver to cover off the possibility of Lewis Hamilton leaving the team at the end of the 2023 season. That might look like a long-shot dream for the Australian driver to replace the seven-time world champion, but with an engine freeze in place until 2026, Mercedes struggling to make their car work, and Hamilton aging, chances are the British champion could retire before seeing a record-breaking 8th title. This would leave the door open for Ricciardo to join the team, and having him as a reserve would benefit Mercedes. His work ethic is great, and he would have had a year to get accustomed to the inner workings of the car and the team, leaving them in a good place if Lewis were there to retire. This could be a very risky move for Daniel, but his options closing and a chance at proving what has made him, he might just take of it. So I honestly think this is interesting to see. Obviously, with everything that is going on, Daniel Ricciardo is looking for a second team. I would love for him to join Mercedes as a reserve driver. Honestly, he hasn't performed very well with McLaren. I don't think it's just his fault as say. There obviously is the car issues that they are having. I feel like the team just doesn't work well with Ricciardo, and it does lead to a lot of problems. So when it comes to all this, I think Ricciardo just needs a change of scenery, and Mercedes would be a great spot for that. Another race week came to an end as the Italian Grand Prix in Monza was won by Max Verstappen, and Verstappen looked in total control despite a late twist in the race. The McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo lost power and stopped on the 47th lap of the race. The race ended under a safety car, much to the annoyance of Tifosi, who came in numbers to support Ferrari. Daniel Ricciardo recently enjoyed a decent week in Monza. However, this race ended before the checkered flag and it brought out a late safety car. Ricciardo led the DRS train impressively, holding off challenges from Pierre Gasly on multiple occasions. While he was asking questions to Will Buxton and Felipe after the race, the newly announced F2 champion questioned why Daniel was asking the questions instead of Will. Hearing that, an excited Will Buxton told Ricciardo, this is what I told you the other day, is that if you take up that Mercedes reserve driver, you're going to be hosting the post-race show next year with me. The Australian replied with a hint of sarcasm saying, "Oh, I'm definitely not doing it then." We'll never know whether Will Buxton was trying to scare off Daniel from taking a Mercedes seat or just having casual banter. But Ricciardo's out of a contract and without a seat for next year's calendar year. However, he's been heavily linked with the Mercedes reserve driver seat for next year. Now, I think it honestly is going to be amazing to get someone like Daniel Ricciardo, even if he's just a reserve driver. He obviously still has a lot of experience left. Now, where I do see a big issue with this is that they are looking to have him as a reserve driver until Lewis Hamilton retires. And I really don't think Lewis Hamilton is going to retire anytime soon. He's on his way to his 8th championship, hopefully in the next couple of years, and he is going to try to win it to really cement himself as one of the best drivers ever. So I think for that to happen, Lewis Hamilton is definitely going to stay. I really don't see him retiring at the end of this year. even with the Mercedes problems that they are facing. So it will be interesting to see how that all plays out, but I don't think Lewis Hamilton is leaving anytime soon. Now, Toto Wolff has said this is how it should be after the F1 Italian Grand Prix ended behind a safety car in a clear hint at the conclusion to last season. The 2021 championship was won by Max Verstappen in the finale in Abu Dhabi when the race director Michael Massey's incorrect application of the safety car rule meant Lewis Hamilton was overtaken and denied a record 8th title. Massey has since left his job with the FIA. In Monza this weekend, the race again ended with a safety car, but the rule was applied differently and correctly. By not permitting any overtakes, Verstappen was able to win the race ahead of Charles Leclerc. The race director call will be criticized. Mercedes team principal Wolff told Sky afterwards, this time they followed the rules. Maybe they could have done it a lap earlier or let George Russell through, but at least they followed the rules. They accepted the race ended with a safety car. This is how it should be. And obviously, we all know what that is in relation to Abu Dhabi last year or last season was honestly, I honestly think we got scammed of a win. It really should have been Lewis Hamilton to win that race, and unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So, obviously, there's a lot of controversy with that Abu Dhabi race. We're not going to get into it in today's video. Maybe I'll do another video on that if you want me to. But Red Bull, Christian Horner said to Sky, it's the polar opposite of what happened in Abu Dhabi. They had more than enough time to get it going. We don't want to win on a safety car. It's something we've spoken about for years. We should finish racing. There was enough time to get racing. We had the fastest car. We would have liked to win the race on the track, not behind a safety car. We share the disappointment of the fans. So obviously, it is a little bit upsetting to actually finish on a safety car ending. You want to obviously finish a race off with some excitement, so it was a bit bad to see that at the end. Now, Hamilton also had stuff to say about the whole safety car incident. So Lewis Hamilton says the safety car finish at F1's Italian Grand Prix reminded him of one time in the history of the sport when the correct rules were not followed. Sunday's Italian Grand Prix ended in an anticlimactic circumstance after it finished behind the safety car, prompting an angry response from the home crowd and leading to suggestions the final laps has been mishandled. Although the grandstand finish between race winner Max Verstappen and Ferrari's Charles Leclerc were denied, the correct safety car procedures were followed, unlike at last year's controversial title-deciding Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Former race director Michael Massey's failure to apply the correct safety car restart rules had a direct consequence on the outcome of the World Championship and ultimately cost the Australian his job. Hamilton had dominated the race and was on course to seal a record-breaking 8th world title before the safety car period enabled Red Bull to pit Verstappen for soft tires, giving him a huge advantage. The Dutchman went on to pass during a one-lap shootout to clinch his maiden world championship and a dramatic and controversial climax to the 2021 season. Speaking about the accurate safety car finish at Monza, Hamilton told Sky, it always brings memories back, that this is the rule and the way it should be, right? So only one time in the history of the sport that they haven't done the rule. Hamilton's Mercedes boss Toto Wolff also couldn't resist a reference to the contentious showdown at Yas Marina. The race director's call will be criticized. Wolff told Sky, this time they followed the rules, and I think that's very important. Maybe you could have done it a lap earlier like we talked about before. So obviously, Hamilton wasn't really happy, with this decision, and why didn't they do that with the Abu Dhabi? But that's all behind us, and we got to look past that. Obviously, it is upsetting to see, but it is what it is. Now, George Russell, on the other hand, had a great performance, actually finishing third, and he actually had a lot to say after the race finish. So the 2022 of F1 Italian Grand Prix practice session saw George Russell struggle with the ERS deployment, and during FP2, Russell informed Mercedes about his issues with deploying electrical energy from the hybrid system. Though it was a blip he faced during the session, he believes that Mercedes are falling short in that aspect. Mercedes' energy deployment system runs out of power boost too early, and it's not suited for the straights at Monza. George Russell is more worried about Ferrari's deployment in Monza and says the Scuderia have the upper hand. He feels Mercedes are still very similar to Red Bull in that aspect, so Ferrari are the ones they're going to have to learn how to tackle. However, after all this is being said, he actually had this to say. Both, to be honest, it was a blip during the session which made things worse, but generally speaking, we are lacking a bit of deployment. I think we are similar to Red Bull, but Ferrari seems to have the upper hands in terms of deployment, so to make things trickier in a race scenario as they got a bit more of a locker to play with. So it's something they'll have to deal with. I think we'll have to deal with it. It was a bit of a strange day. FP1 was looking pretty strong, but then Ferrari and Red Bull had seemingly taken a step forward compared to us. Or maybe we've taken a step back because we were obviously behind the McLaren in FP2, so a bit of work needs to be done in order to really understand that. So with everything that was going on, obviously Russell Russell had a lot to say, but he did get a podium finish, which was honestly great. He also continued to say, unfortunately this weekend we were not where we want to be as a team, he acknowledged. But like I said on the radio, it doesn't matter if we are fast or slow, we keep getting these podium finishes. Over this triple header, 2 of the 3 weekends have been very difficult, and I've still come away with 2 podiums and a P4, so we got to be satisfied with that. Russell was only 7th in qualifying, but was promoted to the front row by grid penalties for other drivers. Although he did well to stay in touch of race leaders, Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen, an attempt to do something different we wanted to fight by switching to the hard compound didn't pay off. That's all we could do in our position, he said, but they were just too quick. Russell's teammate Lewis Hamilton had to battle his way back from P19 on the grid, having been one of those to incur engine-related grid penalties to finish in 5th despite carrying damage from a first lap incident. I really enjoyed the battle with everyone, slowly working away with this car. It was definitely a challenge from the beginning, he commented after the finish. A particular dramatic pass on McLaren's Lando Norris, who was emerging from the pits after a slow pit stop, has been a decisive moment in his race, he said. That was a key move because if I hadn't pulled that off, then I would have been back 2 places. So honestly, I saw Lando coming out and I was like, this is the one moment we have the chance. Fortunately, he was getting challenged by someone else down the outside, so I cut across and it felt great to pull alongside him. He only somewhat regretted not being able to attack Carlos Sainz for 4th place in the final laps when a safety car was scrambled. I wanted to be able to challenge the Ferrari ahead of me and see if I could get another position, he said. But I think in hindsight, it was probably a good ending. I'm really grateful to have come back from the last row. So honestly, this was huge to see, and I think with everything that is going on, hopefully they continue to push forward and keep pushing strong. So guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Let me know down in the comments what you think and what you thought of today's video. And yeah guys, I'll see you soon. Peace.